What's up, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Fantasy Gods. I'm Brett Chaves.
And I'm Toby White.
So, Toby, we're now moving into week 13 as of this recording in most fantasy football leagues in the NFL season, meaning most leagues are now heading into the playoffs, and there's going to be a lot of big moves and a lot of big pushes in order to win a championship.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Like if you guys are in like a paying league, this is when the stakes are high and everybody's trying to put in their best lineup for the right time, and hopefully their team does well.
Yeah, absolutely. So, with that being said, we're going to go over the top players that you should acquire to potentially make a deep run into your fantasy playoff run and potentially take home the championship. Now, just a disclaimer, these players are for if you have either a late trade deadline and if they're on waivers. So, if either of those two apply to your league, you should definitely attempt to either grab them or make an effort for them. So our first one on our list is none other than the truck himself, Derrick Henry from the Tennessee Titans. I'm repping his jersey right now. I mean, we just saw him play against Indianapolis go off for 3 touchdowns at the half. That is unheard of thus far into the season for a running back. And Derrick Henry is now proving again that he is a second half of the season running back. And he's got some fantasy gold for the rest of his schedule. He plays Minnesota, Green Bay. I mean, another couple shootout games. He also plays Detroit as well. So it's definitely going to be an interesting rest of the season for Derrick Henry. And I think there's a lot of value for him.
Yeah, like especially the Tennessee's game plan every week is just get the ball to your best player, and Ryan Tannehill isn't passing it that often to AJ Brown. So Derrick Henry is a is a is a is a nice, beautiful truck with a nice Ferrari engine, and that's what I would say about him. And he can, and and the same thing happened last year. He started going off at the right time, and the Titans turned the season around.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we take a look at his schedule too, like you said, he's got a Ferrari engine with a big truck, and I definitely think you're going to see a lot of that speed out of Henry in this next game on December 6th. He's playing Cleveland, and this game has some big playoff implications to see who gets the higher seed going into the AFC playoff picture. He also plays the Jaguars, the Lions, as we mentioned, the Packers, and the Texans to wrap it up. No Vikings, actually. So Derrick Henry is in for some fantasy gold for the rest of his schedule. And if he's available for trade in your league, go after him because he is going to come up big for you. All right, so let's move into our next player in this list, and that is Keke Coutee from the Houston Texans. A very interesting selection here, but we do believe that he has a lot of value considering the 2 implications now in Houston with Will Fuller suspended the rest of the season and week 1 of next year due to a violation of the PED policy by the NFL, and Randall Cobb was just placed on IR. So now the 2 best receivers in Houston are Brandon Cooks and Keke Coutee, and you know for a fact that Brandon Cooks is not getting all of the targets from Watson. So if he's available in waivers or your trade deadline hasn't passed yet, go after him. What do you think, Toby?
Yeah, definitely. And I am going to quote Drake right here. And Keke, who you love me. So this is a player that you want to pick up because the Texans are thin, and plus you have a quarterback that is like Deshaun Watson, who is playing much more better now, and he's passing the ball better now than he was before, and he's going to hit Keke Coutee more. So
Definitely. All right, so let's take a look at our third player. He's had some value thus far in his first 2 games as the starter, and that's Taysom Hill. We mentioned him earlier in one of our earlier episodes from the New Orleans Saints. Taysom has actually stepped in and made a very prominent role in the Saints offense. Not necessarily the pocket passer like Drew Brees is, but Taysom Hill has provided a bit more variety to this offense, a lot of RPOs, QB sneaks. He's taking just direct snaps and going for the run. So he's provided a lot of value in not just the Saints, but for fantasy as well, especially because the fact that a lot of, systems like CBS and other leagues still have him listed as a tight end along with quarterback. So you could potentially list Taysom Hill not only as a quarterback, but as a tight end as well. So you could have Patrick Mahomes as your quarterback and then Taysom Hill as tight end, putting up quarterback numbers. So if that implication applies to you, Taysom Hill is the guy to get, and he's going to put up so many points for you. Like that cannot be emphasized anymore. That Taysom Hill is a must get if he is available.
Yeah, definitely. Like especially that the Saints are more the run offense now than the passing offense than were with Drew Brees. So they basically flipped their game plan around. And Taysom Hill has averaged 20 points per game over the last two, and he's basically a Swiss Army that plays just a running quarterback in a very now running offense now.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's take a look at our fourth player now, and that is the man returning from injury in Los Angeles, and that is Austin Ekeler from the Chargers. Had a very impressive game last week against Buffalo, and now he's going to potentially look to carry more of a prominent role now in LA now that he has returned and lift some of the weight off of Kalen Balaj and Josh Kelly and that committee that was subbing in for him. So if you definitely have the chance to get Austin Ekeler, this is definitely a potential steal for you as he has the ability to put up a lot of points in a short period of time. And I don't know about you, Toby, but I have him in one league, and he's done me pretty well so far since he's been back.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And plus, he had, especially over last year, he did pretty well filling in a great role since Melvin Gordon wasn't there at all. But this year, now that he's back, he's going to get more opportunities, and the Chargers going to look to say, "Hey, we have our best running back. Now let's use him with Justin Herbert as our quarterback, so he could have a great third down pass to him." So he's a great player to pick up.
100%. So let's take a look at our final person now, and not necessarily such a person, but more of a committee, and that is the Saints defense and special teams. You pointed this out before the show, Toby. This Saints defense has been on a complete roll. And when we say roll, we mean roll. And they've put up 10 plus points, I believe, over the past 4+ weeks. And the Saints defense is almost as acting like the Colts did in the beginning of the season. And if you're looking for a potential streaming defense right now or to lock in that slot going into the playoffs and making a deep run, this Saints defense could be deadly.
Yeah, like especially now since they are, especially with the new quarterback, the defense has been really carrying over everything, and they are playing amazing and stuff. And it's like having over 10 points, like you said, is amazing for them. And plus they had 16, 17 points against the Broncos team, but this team is turning the page at the right time.
Agreed. So let's take a look at actually their last 4 games. At the Buccaneers, with the smothering that they had only 3 points allowed and 3 interceptions, 13 points allowed and 2 picks and 2 fumble recoveries against San Francisco. That was 15 points. Atlanta, 9 points allowed and 2 picks. That was 17 points. And at Denver last week, 3 points allowed, 2 picks, and a fumble recovery, and that was 14 points. So this Saints defense not only putting up over 10 points, but they've been putting up some pretty solid numbers and statistics, and they're looking like they're pretty trustworthy going into the back half of the season.
Yeah, definitely. And that's going to wrap it up for this episode of Fantasy Gods. I'm Toby White.
And I'm Brett Chaves. Keep calm and play fantasy football. Good luck in the playoffs, everyone.